As school boards consider taking police out of the hallways, Safe to Tell, the anonymous tip line for students, is also reevaluating police, at least when it comes to calls about mental health. Which statue will be next? More historic figures get taken down in the city, and for the first time today, the city does it before protesters. Lady Justice may not be swift, but she still comes through. 7 years after the state banned gun magazines that hold more than 15 bullets, we're about to find out if that's even constitutional. And we poll Colorado voters on political ads and whether or not this guy is helpful. Next. Protests over the last month have challenged what we expect from police officers and where we expect them or not. This time next year, Denver Public Schools will rely on its own security and no longer Denver Police. Safe to Tell, the program that allows students to anonymously give a tip or call for help, is also reevaluating when it involves police when it comes to mental health. Here's Anusha Roy.
Safe to Tell has been around for 15 years. It's for students to anonymously report anything from threats, violence to a mental health crisis. And after 15 years, the program is still a work in progress based off of House Bill 2011-13.
Law enforcement response to those calls and concerns is not always the best kind of response.
Currently, when a person calls Safe to Tell with a mental health concern, the person on the other end offers to refer them to a mental health specialist.
I don't think it happens as often as it could because we didn't have any real clear protocols.
The Attorney General's office that oversees the program says last year, out of the 75 people who specifically called in to self-report a mental health crisis, 30 were referred to the Colorado Crisis Services. The others were referred to law enforcement and school districts.
What exactly is it changing about Safe to Tell or adjusting?
This codifies it and will create a formal protocol.
For many kids, this might be their first experience with mental health help, and advocates say it's a different experience talking to a counselor versus law enforcement.
We actually have the financial resources.
This also means more people could be calling and texting the Colorado Crisis Services. That's seen an unprecedented number of people reaching out during the pandemic.
We really are working to build our capacity.
And that's because they receive state and federal dollars for COVID relief, enough money to train an additional 22 people for the team who will be ready to start working next week.
That's coincidental because we didn't know for sure that legislation was going to take off during this really unusual legislative period.
So it's important to remember that there's departments like Denver Police that their officers receive crisis intervention training and they work with clinicians as well. And I had a chat with the head of security for Jeffco School District, and he's worried that if law enforcement isn't included in this, that it could hinder trying to find someone who needs help. In response, the crisis services said that they've got their own resources, including mobile clinics that they use. And if they get to a point where they can't really ensure a person's safety, Marshall, they're going to include law enforcement in that.
You know, I got to think with money involved from the legislature, they want to spend it as quick as possible before it gets taken back away. What's the timeline on this?
Yeah, so the governor is expected to sign this bill, and once he does that, and one of the reasons that this ended up passing is because of a low fiscal note, it's going to be till next February. That's how long they have to come up with this plan. And ultimately, though, like you heard from the crisis services, though, that they are ready to take more calls right now, and that's the good news.
Safe to Tell, always evolving. It's a good resource. If you don't know about it, they'll teach about it in school, and it's a great place to go for anonymous help. Thanks, Anusha. Yep. And, of course, you can call Colorado Crisis Services. It's available 24/7 every day. The phone number 1-844-493-8255 or text the word TALK to 38255. It's been 10 months since Elijah McClain died after an encounter with Aurora police. The facts of the case haven't changed. There hasn't been additional evidence that we know of, yet there continues to be a new number of developments. Today, the Aurora Police Department said it reassigned the police officers involved in McClain's arrest to, quote, protect those officers. 2 of the officers were moved 2 weeks ago, the 3rd late last week. Yesterday, the governor appointed the Attorney General as a special prosecutor to review McClain's death, which happened after police used a now-banned carotid hold and after paramedics, that is, gave him an anesthetic. On Monday, we will learn if a Colorado law on the books for 7 years is unconstitutional. In 2013, Colorado banned gun magazines that hold more than 15 bullets. Well, you wouldn't know it based on a 9 Wants to Know undercover investigation that I was a part of last fall. We found gun stores selling parts kits. Basically, it's a magazine that holds more than 15 bullets and it's just sold in pieces. When the ban took effect in 2013, Rocky Mountain gun owners sued. It ended up in front of the Colorado Supreme Court in November, and the court revealed today it will announce its ruling on Monday. Rocky Mountain gun owners sued, saying the magazine ban violates the right to bear arms under the Colorado Constitution. That means the decision cannot be appealed to the United States Supreme Court. Another large school district will go back to in-person learning this fall. When school starts, Denver public school students will be in the classroom. Masks will be added to the supply list. They'll be required unless there is a medical reason someone cannot wear one. And students who are not comfortable with the plan can continue to choose remote learning instead. DPS is doing this K through 12. No preschool option, though. Jefferson County, Cherry Creek, Westminster, and Mapleton school districts have already announced some form of in-person learning. You know the saying, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on not watching other controversial statues in Denver. Seems like the city of Denver did catch on after 2 statues were torn down in 2 nights. The city removed a statue of pioneer Kit Carson today. They called it a proactive move. A Civil War statue at the state capitol came down earlier in the week, and late last night, early this morning, a statue dedicated to Christopher Columbus in Civic Center Park came down. That statue itself was Da Vinci's Universal Man, but a plaque on the base was dedicated to Columbus. The city removed that plaque today and smashed whatever remained of that base.
Noisy Friday night here in Denver. Strong to severe thunderstorms pushing across the metro area. A couple of light raindrops on the camera lens, but most of these thunderstorms now shifting east of I-25. With that one cell that rolled through here about 5 o'clock, really heavy rain. Flash flood warning will be in place until about 7 o'clock tonight. You can see easily between 1 to 2 inches of rain fell within that cell. Still tracking a good line of thunderstorms along the I-76 corridor heading out to the northeastern plains. Tonight, 50s for overnight lows, 40s up in the mountains. Thunderstorms moving out late tonight, tomorrow morning, a bit of sunshine to kick off our day. And then by the afternoon, you know the drill. Here they come, 2, 3 o'clock. They'll pop into the metro area and then quickly zip off to the northeast late tomorrow night. Chance for seeing a few of these storms tomorrow turn severe. Certainly a possibility along the eastern side of the state. And the heat is back tomorrow. Upper 80s, low 90s for the metro area with 70s up in the mountains. If you want to stay cool, head west. Looking at your 7-day forecast, the 90s are back on Sunday, Monday. Hot, dry, really windy, high fire danger. Possibly a problem for us. And then we'll cool things off back to the 80s, back to the storms by the middle of next week.
Ever stop and ask yourself, wow, Marshall talks a lot about politics. Between that and COVID-19, what did we used to talk about? More politics. Come on, what'd you expect? A year ago tomorrow, John Hickenlooper was running for the job he said he wanted, not the U.S. Senate race he's now running for. He and Michael Bennet were on the presidential debate stage in Miami. But 2 months later, Hickenlooper would drop out and instead run for Senate. Hickenlooper has a 2-to-1 margin over Andrew Romanoff in a 9 News ColoradoPolitics.com Democratic primary poll. We revealed those results on Next yesterday. That was based on 575 Democrats and unaffiliated voters who have turned in or plan to turn in a Democratic primary ballot. Survey USA, which conducted the poll for us, interviewed more than 1,400 registered Colorado voters, and we asked each of those voters other questions. First, here's the breakdown. Overall, the survey interviewed 531 Democrats, 510 Republicans, 283 unaffiliated voters, and 93 who identified as other. We asked all 1,417 their thoughts on the recent demonstrations at the state capitol and elsewhere over inequality. Half of those surveyed support the protests but have not joined them. 1/4 are against the protests, and 14% are not paying attention to the protests. Broken down by political party, 28% of Republicans support the protests, nearly half are against them, while 70% of Democrats support the protests, just 1 in 10 are against. Unaffiliated voters are in between, just more than half support the protests, 1 in 5 are against them. My favorite question for those 1,400 voters was about political ads and truth tests. This is my chance to tell you there will be 10 political ads between now and 6:30.
National Republicans are spending millions.
So do these political ads really work? How many of you are influenced to vote for a candidate because of a political ad? Based on the 1,400 registered voters we surveyed in the 9 News ColoradoPolitics.com poll, only 8% said political ads almost always influence which candidate they'll vote for. More so for 18 to 34-year-olds and never for voters 65 and older. 3 out of 10 voters told us occasionally. 57% told us almost never. So that got me worried about all the time we spend putting truth tests together. I mean, is Bitmoji me about to be out of a job? Absolutely not. 32% find truth tests always helpful, 42% sometimes helpful, and just 1 in 5 say rarely or never helpful. Womp womp. If political ads didn't work, you wouldn't see them 10 times in the #1 newscast in Colorado. In January, the Wall Street Journal estimated that candidates and groups will spend $6 billion on advertising nationally this year, $2 billion of it on the presidential race. The reason you see so much of it isn't to change every vote, just to change enough votes to win a close election. Voters have until Tuesday to physically hand in a ballot or vote in person in the primary election. These are both going in the shredder from me. The deadline to mail in ballots has come and gone, but social distancing poses a challenge for in-person voting this year, and a challenge for getting election judges to work the voting centers. According to Colorado's Democratic Secretary of State, Jenna Griswold, election judges are usually 60 or older, and with the greater risk they face because of COVID-19, Griswold had to find a new way to recruit judges this year.
My office launched an election judge recruitment project. And it has been very successful. We've had hundreds of Coloradans sign up to be election judges, and we're just so happy to be able to do that recruitment effort and help the counties get their election judges. And then I'm just so grateful to be able to offer a hero's pay for election judges during this primary to really recognize that they are frontline workers and just to show how much we value them.
Heroes pay and PPEs. Those will be taken care of and provided for election judges while working at the voting centers. Some dogs may enjoy the work-from-home life. Others just want out of the house, but not for a walk. And we somehow managed to make math a big part of today's good news. The most Colorado thing we saw today, drive-through voting in Chaffee County. Kind of. The clerk and recorder there said the state recommended a mobile drive-through voting option. Chaffee County said, hold my beer. Her quote, not mine. In comes the horse. We wouldn't be doing our jobs if we didn't show you the guy who came through in the boat, which just happened to be on the trailer. Extra points for the smooth social distance ballot handoff there. Horses or boats not your thing? How about rollerblades? I still see those at Washington Park from time to time.
We're providing low-income housing to local families that are in need.
And it's a math problem we've all had to ponder. How many geometry students does it take to build a house? Your Friday Good News, next. The framing of our good news story today actually started 2 years ago. Students from Green Mountain High School started building a home for Habitat for Humanity as part of their math curriculum. Well, today, after being delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic, their first house is finally helping a family in need. Here's photojournalist Byron Reed.
Surreal excitement.
Philip Stonecker and his family have been waiting patiently for this moment to finally arrive.
We've known about this house. We've been working for it for around 8 months, and we always felt like something else was around the corner.
Today, they closed on their new home with help from Habitat for Humanity and the students from Green Mountain High School.
We did this during the 2018-2019 school year.
2 years ago, the mission started at the school with a math program called Geometry and Construction, a hands-on problem-solving experience that combines math instruction with contextual learning.
3,200.
Scott Burke is one of the program creators and says the classes teach math through the process of building homes for families in need. After the homes are completed, their move to their final location.
So this is just a little one-bedroom house that's put in the backyard of an existing house, and then the family that's going to receive both of these houses on the same property will be able to use this to help supplement their income. Welcome to the house.
Burke says the experience has been life-changing for him and his students.
It's just a really great feeling knowing that we're doing a small part to help people out in a great big deal.
To give back to a family who's been on standby until today.
Just 2 years ago for myself, I actually spent a little time camping in a park. So to now be a homeowner, I think it's still settling in.
For next.
And until we get our beds in there and the alarms wake us up there, then it might finally sink in that this is reality.
I'm Byron Reed.
We have an update for you on this week's Word of Thanks. PCs for People fixes old laptops and desktops, making them available to people in need, as well as low-cost internet service. This week they started a new initiative, getting technology to seniors who need it, who might be stuck quarantining in a nursing home without the technology to connect with loved ones. Well, we've heard from PCs for People who tell us that 756 of you have donated a total of $12,669. Thank you. Thank you, every single one of you. Remember that a certain guy that works at the station in a different setup than this is matching the first 50 of those donations of $5. That certain guy is also back on Monday. His name's Kyle. You can still donate. Text the word THANKS to 303-871-1491. Don't call, text it. We'll send you a link to donate. I want to clear up one thing. I said I was going to shred my 2 ballots that I got as an unaffiliated voter. I don't vote in primary elections. I will vote in the general election. And we teased a story about dogs who want to get out of the house. We're going to bring that to you next week. But in the meantime, I'll show you one dog who's currently in this house. And we'll see you next time.